right time to start is when you start taking education and then that massive action. Early on, I was taking massive action and no education and making a ton of mistakes.
Hello, everybody. It's Jake Stenziano, host of Woodborough Prods Podcast, here with my co-host, the multifamily mentor, the coach, chef, father, six best-selling author, the G-Daddy, Gino Barbaro. Gino, how's it going?
Mr. Stenziano, happy post-Thanksgiving to everybody out there. We're recording the day after Thanksgiving, and you know what? Didn't eat too much yesterday. How about you?
Yes, I ate too much.
Oh man, I didn't. It was a great day, great family day, and we got the inspiration to do this podcast. While sitting around, the dinner table yesterday, talking to kids invariably about money and finances and what you're doing with school. And I said to myself, we've got this great book. I love to share it with the community. It's a little misnomer. What's the honeybee, right? The honeybee. We're going to talk about what the honeybee is, and we're going to talk about how it can change your life going into 2021.
I think, and also this podcast is a little self-serving. We want to get the message out there, and we think it's a great gift for the holidays or if you're going into 2021. So we're going to talk about the book, talk about what it means. It's a real estate book that shows you basically the epiphanies and the steps that it takes to grow a multifaceted, vertically integrated multifamily business. I know there's a lot of buzzwords in there, but realistically, there's a lot of businesses within the business of multifamily, and that's what this book shows, because it kind of peels the onion back and shows a little bit about how we've done it in a parable format. So the book's been fantastic. It's near and dear to my heart, and I think it's a total home run. So great gift for the holidays. G-Dad, let's get into it. Kick this baby off.
Well, let's peel back the onion even further.
We're cooking still.
With gas, my friend. It's not just about multifamily.
Yeah.
I started utilizing this in my restaurant business. And let me give you a quick example, especially now during going through the pandemic. During 2008, I tell a lot of people that was my pandemic. That was my Great Recession. Everything was changing in my life. I had 4 kids at the time. The restaurant was not doing great because you know what? When the recession slows down, construction workers aren't coming in to eat, catering orders are slowing down. All of a sudden you have Grubhub, you have all technology coming in, there's more restaurants opening up. So I really felt the pinch. So I was struggling. I hadn't gotten started in multifamily with Jake yet. So I have this restaurant, and my first idea is, let me write a cookbook for the restaurant. How hard can that be? Oh, well, 18 months later, I finally finished it, right? Thank God for my wife. That's all I got to say. Julia, love you, baby. But that was my beginning to multifaceted, because I had a physical location that was not producing enough. 25 years ago, it was great. The middle class, lifestyle, that was great. You could live off of one stream of income. I had one stream of income in 2008. So I said, let me write a cookbook and let me start selling some physical products so I can at least start building the brand. I didn't know what multifaceted was. Then all of a sudden, my brother says, you know what? Let's start doing some weddings. Wow, weddings is great. Off-site, another stream of revenue. Let's start a company called Gino's Family, where we can start doing some YouTube videos and some more education, another stream of revenue. Well, let's start doing some catering orders to AKK, aka Mr. Yaki Boom Boom over there. That's another stream of revenue. We've got catering, we've got weddings, we've got off-site
Cooking
parties.
classes.
We've started doing cooking classes on Monday night. So you can see all these different streams of revenue, right? But I didn't know.
Sauce.
Exactly. So you're talking about sauce, physical products, knives, and you see it building,
Gardening
right?
bags.
Yeah, exactly. It's just like Jake keep throwing them at me. The thing, no samurai swords though. We weren't selling samurai swords at the time. But the point was, I didn't really know how to create a business, right? I was out there and I didn't want to be in the restaurant business anymore because I didn't want to work on the weekends and the holidays. But that was the beginning of multifaceted for me. I'm like, okay, I can have one core business, which is my restaurant, and then I can start branching out. So everybody out there,
Tenants upstairs.
That's right.
Sorry.
Yeah, it was crazy, right? And we want to do a food truck. I mean, if the sky is the limit. I challenge everybody listening on this podcast right now. You're in a business right now. Are you a residential real estate broker? Well, let's play your game. You can write a book on how to sell more homes, be a residential broker. You can all of a sudden say, hey, let me partner up with an insurance broker. I can start doing, insurance, home, auto, renters. Let me partner up with somebody who's doing some private loans. Let me start partnering up with somebody who's doing fixes and flips. Let me start partnering up with somebody who's buying little small multifamilies. Do you see the picture? How it's amazing. It's all encompassing. This is not just about multifamily. This can touch any business person's life out there. It happened with us. We'll go through the progression in multifamily, but I wanted to bring you back with the restaurant. So if you're in a similar business that I had, or you're in another business other than multifamily and you're starting your multifamily business up, start utilizing this. But the key for me was I failed with my restaurant multifaceted because I didn't have the right business structure and I didn't have the right partnerships. Once you start scaling up, you have to say to yourself, who can help you? That is a very big lesson in the honeybee. You're starting to scale up, you're starting to buy more properties. All of a sudden, you're being overwhelmed, right? You're figuring out how to do this. But I never asked myself when I was in the restaurant, who can help me with this? I was doing it all by myself. Like I said, my wife is writing the books. We're downloading the books on Amazon. I'm sourcing products from China. I'm just going through logistics. I had nobody on my team. I didn't know what to do. The honeybee, when we were writing it, was like, okay, I'd done it once, I failed it, we're doing it the second time, it's working really well. What can we do differently that we can share with the reader that'll really help them propel their multifaceted endeavors that they're doing?
Even to add on a few layers of the stack, because it's very applicable to what we do now, is the YouTube page. Gino had a phenomenal YouTube page with
Hmm.
tens of thousands of downloads on you know how to do the beautiful tortellini carbonara, right? And still love that stuff, man. Like that, just I have dreams about that and
Don't
zucchini
love it here,
pizza.
bro. No more for me though. You know what I'm saying?
Don't care. I love it. I love it. And I love taking a little chicky parm and kind of like get them flirting with each other and the sauces start mixing up. That's when it really gets interesting.
Uh-huh.
Okay.
You got a little pink
Um,
sauce going on there. The white and the
dude,
red.
dude, there's
Yes.
nothing better, man. You want to put a smile on my face? Give me some of that. So, and then you clean it up with the zucchini pizzas. So that was my story. Anyways, so the YouTube page was growing, and that was like an introduction into media. So you guys see how there's this huge wheel that all feeds each
Yes.
other, and then that could have led into different like courses and how to cook and master classes and things like that. That's the evolution of any business. It can be for fitness centers, karate courses, whatever it is. It all can be in this same kind of
Yes.
ecosphere. But you could even have taken it a step further, Gino, where you started doing these YouTube videos, but you could have had a live Monday class on Facebook. So, folks, the possibilities are endless. So, regardless of what business you're in, or if you want to tie multifamily into it, because Gino had renters upstairs, he was renting apartments upstairs of the building. You just want to be able to take an asset or some intellectual property and maximize it before you move on to the I'm gonna chap Gino's ass right now, the Bitcoin or the this or the that, or you get outside your lane. There's plenty to do probably already within your space by utilizing real estate as a vehicle and the asset class.
And once again, I'm going to challenge everyone on this call. I know everyone who's listening on this call does not view education as an expense.
Mhm.
Invest in your education, because with Gino's family, I had just started investing in my education. I found the gentleman named Brendan Richard. I started doing Experts Academy. I started learning a lot of things, but I still saw it as a cost, right? I was still reticent, right? Jake and I, in the last 2 or 3 years, we've probably dropped over 300 grand with coaching, and we're going to continue to do it because we get better. Because you hit these certain inflection points in life, and then all of a sudden you need to grow to the next level. You've never been there. Find somebody where you're at the next level. Find that person and latch onto them, and don't be afraid to invest in your education. That's what slowed me down with Jake and Gino. Well, I'm sorry, with Gino's family, because like Jake said, my YouTube page, I have some videos on there that have 300,000, 400,000 views. Why didn't I have somebody helping me out to monetize them, to really push them to something, right? I didn't have something else to offer. The only thing I was back then, I thought a funnel was something where you do like a beer funnel, right? When you're doing funnels. I didn't
We
know what a
had we
funnel
had the
was.
beast in college with a valve and had two hoses coming off it,
Yeah,
right?
that's what I
So
thought a funnel was. I didn't know a funnel was like, driving traffic. I didn't know what top of the funnel was. I found out, thankfully, because now we're able to utilize it with Jake and Gino. And I could say, wow, that was a big failure, that whole restaurant experience of Gino's family. But if it wasn't for that, I wouldn't have met Jake. I wouldn't have continued on the path, and I wouldn't have been able to create the Jake and Gino community. So everyone out there, look at all the problems you had in life. Look at them as opportunities and as learning steps. For me, it was awesome. And that's ultimately why Jake and I think we wrote the honeybee, because we saw that first failure with Gino's family, but then we saw how we were able to create the Rand family of companies, right? And that's a transition from just buying our very first property. Now, I want everyone out there not to be overwhelmed. You're not going to do this overnight. It's not going to take you 20 years, but it's not going to take you 3 months either, because it took us 18 months to get into our first deal. But after that first little crack, then 3 months later, like Jake said, we got in our second deal. And then 6 months after that, we got into our third deal. At around 200 units after doing this for like, about 18 to 24 months, we decided to write the book. And we didn't know what we were onto, right? All of a sudden, like Jake said, we had media. We started a podcast and we wrote a book, right? So you have the investment opportunity here, which is the main spoke, which is where you're generating your revenue, right? Whether it's cash flow or equity appreciation. We had a property management company that we started from day one. Not a huge generator, but what it allowed us to do, it allowed us to control the asset and really make our profit per door kick ass. That's what ended up happening. That, and we learned the business. From there, we created the education company. The education company can monetize in so many different ways, and even if it doesn't, the synergy between the education company, because we're continuing
The
to learn,
networking is just
the
amazing. You
networking,
can't like for ourselves and the folks that we're able to interact with. It's just it's priceless.
right? I mean, how many times can you speak to Robert Kiyosaki or T. Harv
Yeah,
Eker or Dean Graziosi or
it's got to be
Cameron
value for
Herold?
value. You got to provide a platform.
Right, and that's what it allowed us to do, and we really learned, and we met a ton of our vendors on there. Then you start creating online events, then you start creating seminars, then you start creating multifamily mastery one, and then from there we have a couple hundred investors on our database. And from there, we created Rand Partners, which is our syndication company. And from that syndication company, all of a sudden, you're able to be able to generate asset management fees, acquisition fees, and there's another business, right? And then ultimately, you have Rain Capital, which is generating mortgages for people out there. But the most important thing, I think, when we pull it back, let's get back to the honeybee, because the idea was, it's a misnomer, the name. I mean, the honeybee, when we all look at a honeybee, the honeybee is programmed to be a worker. All it does is it makes honey. And it's very ironic that it's to when I'm thinking about the honeybee, I think about the 9 to 5 worker. I think about myself at the restaurant.
Hmm.
Tuesday morning, ding, 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 got out of bed at 8, did the homeschool, got to work at 9:30, started peeling the shrimp. Wednesday, the same thing. I was just programmed. I wasn't thinking long term. I wasn't thinking about building a business. I was just thinking about producing like the honeybee. And I was just conditioned to do that. Right. And I just want to know, anybody out there feel like that? I felt like that for so many years after 2008.
Hey, listen to this. Every Monday morning, team meeting, City Limits Diner in White Plains. Okay,
Yes.
I got my stupid little card stock, and I'm already prepared. Right. All the other guys, I remember sitting there and with like all these meathead guys that I used to work with, and they would eat like the Cheerios like this for the guys on YouTube shoveling them in. We had these like stupid meetings. That I remember one guy always got the egg white omelet with tomatoes, and it was like the same meeting over and over again. And then everyone got in their car and did the same route. And it was like I was like the UPS man, and it was the same
Mm-hmm.
week over and over. It could have been Groundhog's Day.
Mm-hmm.
So and then it was the same dinners, going to Morton's, going to Ruth Chris with the same people over and over again. It was the same thing. There was like no creativity. It was kind of like stuck in this box, and,
Mm-hmm.
and there was no growth. If we're going to be completely honest, because they change the commission structure every year,
Mm-hmm.
and that's what you see with Noah,
Mm-hmm.
time and time through with the honeybee story.
Yeah. So Noah in the honeybee is a disaffected salesman. He's on his job, he's doing his job, and it's the same thing was happening in Jake's life. He didn't really like what he did. He hated his boss. He had no control, but ironically enough, he still had to work hard. That's the thing. Everyone thinks that all of a sudden, and especially now post pandemic, you think you have a W-2 job. You think you have a little restaurant, you're going to work less, right? You're working even harder. You have no systems in place. You have no security, right? There's no security in a W-2 job. There's no security in a small restaurant right now with competition and with technology going on. So for me, when I started it out, I was like, okay, I own the honeybee, right? I own the honey itself, right? And like Tom is the beekeeper. He owns the honey hive. He's the one who's making the money. And I thought myself having that small little business that I was the Tom of the world, but I wasn't, because I was still the self-employed worker and just going there and not really planning for the future. I was working, in the business. I wasn't working on the business.
Hmm.
And that's what happened, I think, with Noah. When he in the story, he gets a flat tire and Tom comes driving by and he's in his beekeeper suit. He picks him up. He's in a 1950 Chevy old truck. They get to Tom's house and it's called Tributary Acres. And the reason why we call it Tributary Acres is Tom has these little rivers on his property. We call them little complementary streams of revenue. They're really little when you first start out, but as you work and you
Like a
commit.
25 unit apartment complex or a duplex.
That's right, a duplex, a triplex, every little one of them, all of a sudden go into one and become a raging river. And never judge a book by its cover like the honeybee. This looks like a book that is just a nice little book about a honeybee, but no, this is a business book, and it's the same thing with Tom's life. Noah looked at him and said, this unassuming old man in honeybee, so he looks a little crazy, but when he got to Tom's house, he was like, how did you do this? And I think Tom and Jake and myself have something in common. When we were younger, like Noah, we were chasing money. As a W 2 worker, as a small business owner, all you do is you try to chase the money. As an entrepreneur, as somebody like Tom and somebody like Jake and Gino now, we're trying to chase value. That was the big difference, right? The value is in creating the honey hive, getting the hive and creating the honey. That's where the value is. And I think Tom early on figured that out in his career, and he started creating complementary streams of revenue. Noah had no idea what he was talking about. Tom just said, start anywhere. And that's, I think, the problem with a lot of people is they don't know where to start, or they make excuses. It's not the right time. For a person who has 6 kids, I'm going to tell you right now, it's never the right time to have a family. It's never the right time to start a
Or
kid.
easy.
Never. I mean, like, you can start now in real estate, prices are too high. Start back then when Jake and I started, the economy was terrible. The price per door was great. There were deals out there, but there was no money. There was no
But
sentiment.
the
So,
deals didn't make sense a lot of times back then either because the rents were so low. So you could be
yes,
getting an asset for 35,000 a door, but the rents were like 450 or something. So while it, probably cash flowed, a little bit, it wasn't some like amazing thing. You had to still do the work, right?
yes,
Nothing's handed to you in this life, folks. So
100%. I think the moral of the first few chapters, I want everyone to like really drill this into their minds. Transactions pay the bills. That's what I was doing. That's what Jake was doing. That's what Noah was doing. Equity makes you rich. Tom was rich because he owned the equity. He owned the hive. That's what was important. I think that's got to be a paradigm shift for everybody reading this. It's great to have transactions. It's excellent. But to manage cash flow, there's work involved in it, but that's going to set you free. Having equity is going to set you free. And that's what's going to give you some comfort in life because, hey, listen, once you want to get out of the game, if you own something, you can always sell it and recoup money from that. But if you're out there just doing transactions every day, at the end of the day, you got to continue doing transactions. You got to keep being the honeybee, flying to the next flower, coming back and doing the work and not even knowing why you're doing that work.
yeah, and at the core of our business, and for even Gino's restaurant, if you're looking at it, we love in our business to have at the core of it. Gino was talking about equity. We like to have the equity in real estate. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
that's what we do. I love to have our businesses centered around specifically multifamily real estate. I believe that's the correct vehicle, and that's where the equity lies. While we have other businesses, that's great. We love the other businesses. At the core is a hard asset. Okay, I know probably
Mm-hmm.
everybody listening to the show right now has read Rich Dad Poor Dad. What's the moral of the story? Collect assets, not liabilities.
Mm-hmm.
The assets that we collect are multifamily real estate. We day in and day out, we're looking to add more stacking assets, but then we service all the businesses. Okay, we call it the power wheel. We service all of our multifamily business through, like Gino mentioned earlier, the mortgage company or the property management company or the education. It's all focused around that core asset of multifamily real estate.
Mm-hmm. So the story, the wonderful power that was written, has lessons. And the lessons are really easy. My children, my 9-year-old and my 12-year-old have read the book. I made them read the book this year for school. It's an easy read for them. Jake and I were really, when we read The Richest Man in Babylon, that really affected us. It's just such a simple book. It's, Arcad and his laws, right? Save 10%.
Gold, jewels and gold.
Right? You don't have a shield maker going out and
Yeah.
you buying diamonds, right? And jewels, right? But that's what life really is all about. When you rip it down at its core, there's some really simple fundamental rules and laws that you need to follow when you're doing your business life and your personal life. And this is what we wanted the honeybee to be. The first law that we said in the honeybee, the first rule really is escape the honey trap. Just know that when you're creating transactions, it's great, you're paying the bills, but you're not creating wealth. And that's what I was doing at the restaurant. I'd work Tuesday through Sunday. Sunday night came, what's left over? Oh, great. Let's work next week. Same thing. I was on that hamster
There's
wheel.
no end to that, correct? I think that's
There's
the point.
none.
Yeah.
There's none. And the saddest part about it was there was no security for me because what happened when it snowed? I didn't get paid, right? What happened when there's a holiday week? I didn't get paid. And it
What
was very
happens when there's a
frustrating.
lockdown? Thank God that you weren't there at this time.
That's right. I
Yeah.
mean, for 6 months, you're completely out. What happens when the power goes out? I mean, there's so many times throughout my 20 years there that I felt that insecurity. So number one, escape the honey trap, right? Number two is find your surpluses. I was trying to find my surpluses in the restaurant. Like I said, I was trying to create other assets, and that's what we've done with this multifaceted. You're trying to create other assets out there, and it's really cool. Every stream has a source, and in the book, Tom challenges Noah. Where is your surplus? And I challenge everyone on the call right now, find out and stop for a second. Take a minute. Where is your extra surplus? In the book, Noah's like, wow, I've got a basement. Let me rent it out. Airbnb. That was his surplus. And that's all you need to do to start that one little stream. Back in 2013, I had three streams of revenue. I had a 4 unit apartment complex. I had a little note that I was collecting income on, and I had the restaurant. Today, I have over 25 streams of revenue. It's been less than a decade. Once you start with that one little stream, you get hooked. Challenge everyone on the call again. Think of it this way. Are you working hard for your money, or is your money working hard for you? That was a hard question for me to answer back in 2008 because I was working really hard for my money. But once 2013 started and I started investing with that guy over there on the other side of the screen, all of a sudden I felt as if I want to make my money start working hard for me.
Yeah, and don't look at this and get confused like, oh, I live in an apartment, I have an iPhone to my name. What are you talking about? Gang, I was there. What was my surplus in the beginning? Work ethic, sweat
Mm-hmm.
equity, get off
Mm-hmm.
my ass and go to the apartment complex every Friday, Saturday, Monday, collect, show, chase these folks down. It was nothing but time and desire. Okay. I had a fire in my belly, which still burns strong today. And that was the only surplus really that I had at that point. There was not a ton of money. It was not like a trust fund baby or something.
Mm-hmm.
We bought a rundown old apartment complex and worked our freaking asses off to get the thing off the ground and make it a nice community for people. So early on, if you're coming from a similar spot like I was, it's going to be your hustle. It's going to be, taking it from 5 to 10 at night, sitting at your kitchen table with these silly little receipts, trying to figure out systems, trying to make things better. I was upstairs, I don't know if I told you this. We're painting upstairs in my daughter's room, and I found this box from when we moved that got misplaced in her closet, and it was all these. I used to use these yellow notices so that people would really see them. I'd put them on the doors, and they were late payment things from early 2013, and,
Mm-hmm.
and it was all it was kind of like maybe some PTSD from those early days, but and then I found what else I found, the old burner phones. So we didn't have a
Mm-hmm.
office, we didn't have anything. We had these Cricket wireless burner cell phones, and that was the office phone, and I would carry it with me and take calls on the road when we were doing the pharmaceutical rep business when I was also doing this. So it's guys, that's what it takes early on. That's your surplus. You find it where you can, and then that gives you that little edge or advantage, because while everyone else is at home watching Monday Night Football, I might have been watching it too, but I was also, bet your ass that I was doing work at the same time, because that's how it was early on.
Jake,
So
that's important for everyone to hear. A surplus is not just money, right?
yeah.
It can be an intellectual asset. You can go and invest in your education, really learn multifamily. My surplus early on was that I knew how to do it. Jake's surplus early on was that he lived in the market. You put those two surpluses together, and that's what you get, right? So, do you have time? Surplus, maybe you have time. So, dedicate time to doing something. Surplus, maybe you have the like us, you commit and then you figure it out. That's a surplus there. That's a skill that you have. A surplus, maybe you have a great strong balance sheet, but you still, we're going to get to the next lesson, but you still have to learn, right? So you have those surpluses out there. Try to figure out and try to actually utilize those surpluses. My surplus, early on with Jake, with Gino's family, was my wife. She was an amazing surplus. I utilized her to help me write the book. Wouldn't have been able to do that without her. So out there, figure out your surpluses.
And that chicky parm, baby, come on.
Dude, I love the chicky parm. The next one, MIH. Take action, commit, and then figure it out. That's what the core it is. It's education times action equals results. You really need to take the education. Once I said 2008 hit, I went out, I found some real estate mentors. I started coaching, and it really gave me systems, and I really learned how to invest. And like I said, if you're starting out right now in real estate, you're going to need a few months for traction. So now may not be a good time, but we don't know what the future is going to hold for us. Your market cycle may downturn or it may go even higher. So there's never the right time to start. The right time to start is when you start taking education and then that massive action. Early on, I was taking massive action and no education and making a ton of mistakes. My first two deals were terrible or awful, but I look back, they were opportunities looking back at it because I never would have gotten into multifamily and I never would have sought out a mentor and a coach to help me learn the business.
Think where people are missing the boat right now, because we had an economist on the show last week, and he
Hmm.
basically said there's going to be inflation at some point. He said it's probably going to be 2 years out. So essentially, you're going to have a deal that's worth 100 a door that we'll say goes to 110 a door simply through inflation. And then he
Hmm.
said what's going to follow that is rate increases. So everyone's complaining about asset prices right now, but if you buy something and you get a 3% interest rate on it right now, say for 100 a door, and then you improve operations, and then you have this inflation, and say it goes up to 110 a door, but then all of a sudden interest rates go up, so you now have a loan that's assumable at 3%, and then say rates are then at 5%.
Hmm.
Guys, you always got to be looking in the future. It's a dynamic economy. Things are constantly changing. You got to have your finger on the pulse. So who knows, that may never happen. I'm not saying that's what's going to happen. I'm using the economist's words, not mine.
Hmm.
But there's opportunities out there. You just got to be willing to hustle. So,
Hmm. In this lesson, we also talk about stings. That's why the honeybee.
mm,
It's a really great analogy. You're gonna have stings. Noah rents his basement. Well, one weekend somebody goes down, rents the basement, destroys the unit, steals the TV. Stings will happen. They have always happened. They will continue to happen. Whether it's in your multifamily business, whether it's in your W-2, whether it's in your small little restaurant, you can decide where they happen. So for us, we had a lot of stings early on with our first 25 unit property. People passing away, bed bugs, septic systems failing, drugs in the It was so many stings. It was like, how many times are we going to get stung? But
theft,
I mean, exactly. But it's one of
drug
those
problems
things.
with employees, even.
Yeah, it's going to be another one of those. So just commit to it. You can decide where you get stung, whether
Stupid,
you're
stubborn managers thinking they were going to mow the lawn. I mean, come on.
you can decide whether you want to
Yeah.
create wealth and get stung or whether you want to create wealth for someone else and get stung. It's all dependent upon you. But for us,
What was
really
that
make it
quote we
happen.
heard the other day? It was fantastic.
Which one?
Oh shoot! It was something like it was with that Monica lady talking about what her dad told her. It was something about that. Like you can either
Oh, yes. Yeah, I
something
don't
about.
remember that.
It was
Yeah.
along those lines, though, man. Anyways, it was
Yes.
great. So I
Yeah.
forgot.
Yeah. So lesson 4 is start to build your hive. Learn to ask
It was
who.
rich people problems versus poor people problems or something like that. Like I don't know. Sorry. It was
Well, no, no. Well, what it's true that Jake, what you're talking about, my mom always told me that you can have money and have problems because when you have money problems, or you can be poor
yeah.
and have poor problems. You can choose to have either one. They're both problems. They're
Mhm.
both from a different lens. Money can solve a lot of the problems, right? When you're having, issues. When you're poor, there's a lot of things that you can't do that you can't solve. So you have the decision. So I'd rather have 100 units and have those problems than have no units and have a boss and have those problems. I think Noah was there in the book, Jake. Noah was like, you know what? I go into these meetings. They're soul sucking. I don't want to be there. My commission structure is getting cut down. I don't want to be on the road 3 days a week. I don't want any of that. That's where I'm getting stung. Well, let me start trying to build a business and get stung here. So lesson 4 is start to build your hive. Learn to ask who. This is where you're starting to scale up, and multifamily is wonderful because you can hire. You start scaling up. Don't ask how you can do it. Who can do it for you? Just create a little capex crew like we've done. Start hiring property managers, start hiring full-time maintenance techs. This is where you're starting to build a system and the inflection point where you are not yourself. It's not the I'm gonna do this and I'm gonna do that. And Noah had that realization from going to Tom, and Tom kept giving him all these lessons. And Noah's like, you know what? I'm stuck here. I don't have enough time to do everything. I've got a job. I can't manage my properties. So, Tom is like, well, think about it. Who can help you? And that's when Noah said, you know what? I can hire a property management company and start scaling my business.
Yeah, and the next one is something we alluded to earlier, is committing to your core. At the
Yes.
core of our power wheel is the asset. It's the physical asset, it's the equity, it's what makes it possible, and it creates the other streams. They pour back into the core as well because it's rinse and repeat. We call it refine roll. The more revenue that comes in, and this is a very simple strategy, and this is solely my strategy. Money comes in, I build up cash, the money goes back into buying another building, and then more money is created because there's more and more buildings, committing back to the cash surplus, and then that gets redeployed. And
Hmm.
it's just rinse and repeat. And then we take advantage of cost segregation and these different things to make it that much more efficient.
And in the book,
Simple.
Noah decides to, hey, I've got some cash going on. I'm not as smart as Jake. I'm going to go and invest in a restaurant. Now, if he had invested in the building of the restaurant, that's a different story. But he went off course and invested in the restaurant business where she knew nothing of. Buster's Bistro. Great food, great location. First couple weeks they're jamming. Then after a couple months, Noah's not getting any callbacks from the owner, and ultimately the business falls apart. Another major sting. So he runs back to Tom. And he says, "Tom, what's going on?" And Tom said, like Jake told him, "Commit to your core, the synergies." And people say, "Hey, but I don't want to have all my assets in one asset class." What's great about when you're doing complementary streams of revenue, you have other revenue streams going on. It's not just the asset itself. You have the education company, right? You have the syndication company. So you're diversifying from that aspect of it. And I know one thing in life, anyone who's really successful out there learns how to focus. Once they focus all their actions and all their results into one something, and they give it their all, that's when they start learning. That's when they start maximizing their potential and getting really good at that skill set. Took a little while for Jake and I to become pretty good at multifamily, and we're constantly learning. But focusing on it gave us a lot of success.
Here's my diversification. I like A properties, I like B properties, and I like C properties. And I like market A, and I like
Yes,
market B, and I like market C. So there's your diversification for you if you need it.
that's Jake. That is awesome. That's the golden nugget for me of the podcast today. You can diversify in different asset types, different markets, different strategies. One may be a long-term hold, one may be a fix and flip where you're flipping it out, one may be a syndication, one may be an owner finance deal. There's so many different ways to do this business. Once you learn, that's really powerful. I love that, bro. Number 6, and the last lesson, create streams of purpose. One of my mentors told me, when you're out there, some people are so poor, all they have is money. Now, when you're an entrepreneur, obviously you're trying to maximize value and trying to earn money. But if that's all you're doing just for the next deal and the next deal, and you're not creating that stream of purpose, your life becomes pretty empty, pretty hollow. And that's what happened to Noah. All of a sudden, things are clicking. He got rid of the restaurant. He's scaling up. He has a property management company. He has his CapEx crew. He's buying assets. He's really doing well. But there's something that's missing there. And he goes back to Tom and he says, "Tom, there's something really missing in my life." And Tom is like, "You know what? Why are you doing this? Why are you making money?" And I don't think most of us, when we're building our businesses and all, we don't really reflect upon that. All we're trying to do is to create quote unquote security for our family. But if you're not a person who's going to give back or try to, contribute to others' lives, it's going to be pretty difficult to continue because when it's only about money, it's hard to create value. And that's why we created the Jake and Gino community. It was one of those things where we can give back to others. We can help others by becoming financially free, by creating multifamily entrepreneurs. And at the same time, you're monetizing, making money, but you're also helping other people out there. And I think that's what Noah was missing. And Tom just pulled him back and said, "Hey, why are you doing this? Think about why you're doing this."
Yeah, and it gave us the opportunity to create Rand Cares. We just eclipsed the 20,000 meal mark for our food drive for this Thanksgiving, which was awesome. It was a huge
Hmm.
accomplishment. Shout out to the entire hashtag Rand fam. Well done there. And I didn't realize it at the time because wasn't an entrepreneur before this venture. How great of a culture builder giving back is. It rallies the team. Everyone. It gives them so much pride and joy to give back to your communities. And there's so many different ways that we're able to do it now. So it was, again, it maybe didn't start there. That wasn't the sort
Hmm.
of the vision in the beginning, but it's definitely transformed into that. And it's just something that I think everyone's, that's on the team is very proud of. So.
Hmm. And that's what happens as you start earning more money and you become financially free. Those of us who are barely paying the bills, like I was in the restaurant, it's really hard to help people. You can barely help yourself. But once you become financially free, like Noah did in the book, all of a sudden you have this excess capital, excess cash. You're a steward of your money. What do you want to do with your money? That rain
Plus, it's a
cares.
scarcity mindset at that point because you don't know, is
Hmm.
it going to snow next week, and is there's
Yes.
it's like there's limitations. There's only going to be so much, and every year I was in the pharma job, I don't 8 years or whatever, I made the same amount every year. They kept
Hmm.
moving things around, but it was the same. So you where do you think that scarcity comes from? There's no abundance. The only way there was
Hmm.
abundance was to go out and do something else. So
Hmm.
now that we're in an opportunity where there are multiple streams, there's abundance, you can do these things and then contribute to the areas of society that you want to improve.
So that last one is really important. I think if you're starting to build a business, think about that right now. I mean, don't think about it then. Like Jake said, to untap the abundance mentality is an amazing thing, right? That scarcity mindset will hold you back because you're not, multifamily to me is a team sport. If it's only about you, and you never leave any meat on the bone for a deal, or you never want to share, or you never want to partner, or you never want to, give somebody a resource or give them a hand up, it's going to come back to you sooner or later because people want to work with people who they like, know, and trust. And if you can create that and help others out there, it's only invariably going to come back and help you.
So here's the deal. We are doing bundles of the honeybee. There's gonna be different tiers. We're not gonna tell you what they are right now. You gotta go click the link, in the show notes, okay? And there's gonna be specifically different tiers where bundles are discounted. So if you have a team out there and you want to give everybody a copy, there's going to be a discount. You want to give them to a class or a school or a business, there's going to be deeper discounts the more you buy. So
Hmm.
share the gift of knowledge this holiday season. We got some great discounts for you. Check out the show notes. G Pop or Beanie, what else you got for me?
Well, when you're out there, I usually like to do recaps of our guests, right? And I'll do a recap of myself because it's I'll do it as quick as possible, but just to give
Hey,
people the
hey, we
idea.
got time. It's our show. Okay.
just just to give people the idea, right? I graduate college, not really a job out there that I like. I wasn't a cubicle person. I'm sure a lot of people on the call right now can relate to that. I open up a restaurant and it is fantastic for the first few years, right? I mean, the economy is different. Then the Great Recession comes, and to me, everything changes. Right now, it's very eerily similar. One of the greatest transfers of wealth happened back in 2008. Everything's out of control. The economy doesn't make sense. Asset prices right now in Florida are getting back to where they were back in 2007, 2008. So that's the crazy part, right? It was so overinflated, and people lost a ton of money. And same thing happened to me. I was working harder, making less. But then I decided, you know what? Let me take action. Let me start creating these results that I want to. Let me start trying to multifacet my business. It didn't work. I made a couple of mistakes in real estate. I said, I need to find a coach. I need to find a mentor. I wish I could have found the Jake and Gino community back then. That was the missing piece for me. I didn't have that. That's why we created it. But then I found an amazing partner. We partnered together. No shiny object syndrome, down the fairway. We focused. We had really, our expectations were clear. Our goals were very similar. We stayed on that path and we just wanted to become financially free. And from there, it's education times action equals results. You keep working on that. Massive education, massive action. That's why partnerships and communities are very important because I needed to be held accountable. I could have been the person saying, you know what, I got to work 10 hours today. I don't have any time to do it. You know what? I had
It's the
enough
day after
pain.
Thanksgiving. I want to sleep in.
It, you know, you're preaching, bro, right? But you know what? Sitting down 2 p.m. during lunchtime, doing the podcast show notes, calling a broker, underwriting a deal, have everyone come over to me and say, why are you working so hard? Take it easy. Take a few hours. No, that's not what I wanted to do. And that's not what I want everyone on this call to do. I want you all to be focused. I want you all to go out there, crush it, make it happen, and focus on why you're doing something. And that's ultimately what led to my success. The accountability with an amazing partner, the ability to continue to learn, and the ability to commit and then just to figure it out.
I'm gonna punch the haters in the face right now because they're saying, "Oh, you're talking about working the day after Thanksgiving. That's not happiness." You're saying, "No, just work harder. That's not happiness." I'm gonna tell you one thing right now. You want to talk about a transformation? That gentleman right there, the G Dad. When I met him, his state, he was not outgoing,
Mm.
and I'm telling you right now, Gino, I'm not hating on you, but was in the back of the restaurant with his arms crossed, and he looked like he was frowning. I didn't even know him really at all until I went to Tennessee and we started talking about real estate. He just looked, frustrated, and he was standing in the back with his arms crossed in the restaurant. Never looked happy. Now he's dancing over there. He's on the podcast. Every time I see him, he's giddy, he's energetic, and like if you want to see a transformation of joy and happiness, look at what's happened with Gino. He found his purpose. He found the right vehicle, and his state, his being, his higher level of consciousness has basically shown through, and it is shining now because he's in a different state, and he's providing value to it's an amazing thing. And Gino, I'm
Well, you're
congratulating you,
right.
bro.
I was a prick back then, right? And it was,
No, I'm not saying you're a prick. You just look frustrated.
I was. Well, yeah, but that led me to being a bad person to a lot of people. Led me out to be my frustrations, right? And I could have been a better person. I didn't know any better, right? I was just lashing out because I was trying to do better. I was doing the same thing over and over again. And I didn't surround myself with amazing people. I didn't have great partners. I didn't have a great vision. I didn't have any of that. That's why it's important to find those people, find like-minded people, get off the merry-go-round of social media, of get off the merry-go-round of listening to the news, because
Yeah.
all that's going to do is just drag you down. And that's what I was doing back then. And then I decided to, you know what, take action,
100%
improve my life.
responsibility junkie over there.
Yep. And that's
So
what happened. Noah was me. Noah was Jake. And then at the end of the day, Noah became Tom, because Noah used Tom as that mentor, as that coach, to learn and to be held accountable and to get in the car and drive to Tom's house whenever something was not working. And Tom would not give him the answers. Tom would ask him those amazing questions, and Noah would figure out
yes,
himself. That's the
yes.
amazing thing. Happy post Thanksgiving, everybody. Let's go out there.
Woo!
Let's make it happen. Let's buy some of those books for
Ah,
everybody. All right.
love
Thanks,
this.
Jake.
Thanks, man.
Take care, everybody.